of what is happening so far. We can see IBC hard at work. Lots of challenges along the way, but broadly speaking, that is panning out to be very smooth if we may look at the broader aspect of it at the end of the day. And we want just to also give it a critical analysis, and none other to do this very ably is Dismas Mokur, who is a political risk analyst, to tell us what so far he's observed. We have 6.5 million voters who they've cast their votes as by noon. So that number, of course, is bound to be spiking up by now. And allow me just to welcome him. Always a treat to have you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, we're just watching there, Nyamira. That is it your county? I saw you really, your eyes really bugging out and following out keenly.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes.
Nyamira is a few kilometers away from home, so understand the local language and understand the dynamics, but it's a bit disappointing that the presiding officers have indicated that the voter turnout is a bit low, and that is an issue of concern in my view, because from prior elections, normally the biggest turnout is in the morning. So right now at midday they said there was about 6.5 million people who had cast the ballots. That would be a suggestion that there is voter apathy. And in my view, we would look at it from 3 levels. Maybe number one, majority of the Kenyan voters, the 22.5 million, are not happy with the quality of the candidates. I mean, the candidates who have presented themselves. Right from a presidential level, there are people who are unhappy with Mr. Raila Odinga and Mr. William Samoei Ruto. So maybe on that basis, they say that if I wanted to cast my ballot, presidential ballot, in favor of, say, Jimmy Wanjigi or Kigame or another person, and they're not in the ballot, then I have no reason to go. So I've met a number of people who are complaining about quality, because they say that in fact there's no choice, that you are limited to very limited options, so that may not be a choice. Then number two, it would be the cost of going to cast your ballot, because for some reason, majority of Kenyans who have moved to the urban areas, for some reason, they register back in the villages. So now the cost, maybe if you're from Mandera, or rather if you live in Nairobi and you're from Mandera or Kisumu, so you've registered in Kisumu, and you stay in Nairobi, you've registered in Mombasa and you stay in Nairobi, the cost of going to cast your ballot could be very expensive. So maybe that could be a reason. And number three, it could be that looking at the track record of the elections, that you vote for people, they make a number of promises, but 5 years later or 10 years later, they do not fulfill those promises. So people think that voting is actually a lost cause. So in my view, those could be the 3 reasons. But again, it's very early in the day, because we've got about 3 hours. So let's just hope that people are very busy in the morning trying to look for unga and bread, and they'll go before 5 o'clock.
Given today, of course, is a public holiday, we'll expect them to really come out in force, even early in the morning. But yeah, we still have some hours to go. But I want us just to be intently focusing also on IBC regarding some of the polling stations that we can see the KIMS kits have failed, and they've now given that carte blanche to now use the manual register as it is. Technological failure, even after they promise, that this will be, fail-proof, completely. Sometimes you don't really overpromise, then sometimes you under-deliver.
Well, marketing,
especially if it comes to technology, you cannot be very sure that this is a surefire way that we're going to work, and we promise the Kenyans nothing will happen with the technology. So today it failed, and they've given a reason for some of them to use the manual register. Yeah, but
in marketing they say that you under-promise and you over-deliver so that you make your clients happy. And you recall a few weeks ago, IBC had a simulation whereby they did not achieve a very high rate of success. So one would have expected that, in fact, they would have gone the extra mile to ensure that everything is bulletproof. Because the value we've been saying times above number for the last 10 years, that the only responsibility in Chebukati's docket is to create predictable systems for unpredictable outcomes. So it's a disenfranchising for some voters to go to the polling station, and then the KIMS kit doesn't work. Like I saw Professor Jakoya complaining earlier on, and you get a disenfranchised, and some people would lose their cool. Or even if you don't lose your cool, the time it takes for you to go through the process and try to identify yourself and establish whether your name is actually in the kit, it means that you are delaying other voters. However, the plan B seems to be working. So a number of people have been given the opportunity now to go through the manual register, But I believe, or I hope that IBC has got a provision in stations where the electronic system has failed, then they extend by a certain number of hours so that anybody who wanted to cast the ballot is not disenfranchised on account of the mistakes of IBC.
Yes.
But again, you know, when you're talking about technology, technology is as good as the people.
Yes.
So if you've got IBC staff, as maybe a number of them are lazy, or they've not been trained on how to use the technology, or they're just also disenfranchised, then systems are bound to fail. But on the flip side, in most parts, the KIMS kits have been a success. So we cannot entirely blame IBC for failure, because I would imagine that they've achieved a certain level of success, probably 90%. However, even if they've achieved 90% success as a figure, the 10% failure would disenfranchise those people who've had challenges. So in an election, I think the raison d'etre is to strive and ensure 100% success. Given the fact that you've got 5 years and you don't have challenges with your budget, and you've had capacity to employ the best resources to manage this poll. Because, I mean, IBCs are, after every election, they've got 5 years to prepare for an election. They've got, they don't have a challenge with human resource. They may be having a challenge with the budgets, but the responsibility of any leader is to identify those challenges and offer solutions. Because a voter is not interested in the logistics behind the election day. They want to go to a polling station, they want to be identified through the KIMS kit, and they want to vote for persons of their choice.
Indeed. And we've seen the letter there from Azimio raising a raft of issues. First of all, they want a demand on why these KIMS kits were failing. And IBC have, you know, given also that particular press conference that that will be sorted out. They never gave sufficient information in regard on why this system failed. First of all, that particular notion that, yes, these polling stations, we have the KIMS kits failing. There were also issues to do with security. It's a handful of security issues that have been raised so far.
In parts of Kenya.
I wanted to just ask to clarify on how that will be handled. We have Wajir, as we were talking off camera. There were gunfights yesterday, and that one was actually affected. I will just pause on that a bit, because we have Timothy Otieno all the way from England, who will also just be priming us on what is happening currently, especially focusing on the 10,000 voters there. The diaspora vote is a very key component this time forth with the IBC. Let's just cross over to Timothy so that we can get an update.